This episode is powered by Safety FM.
This podcast is being sponsored by safetyconsultantblueprint.com.
In this episode, we're going to learn tips and tricks of the trade to understand OSHA a little bit better.
We can all run into issues. Some issues we will discuss with friends and maybe family, but some items are so personal that we don't want to discuss with anyone and we just want to handle them ourselves. What issues am I talking about? I am talking about issues with credit. Imagine being able to work on your credit report from the comfort of your own home. No weird salesperson telling you to dispute everything. Just straightforward, no nonsense on what to do, step by step to work on your credit report. This is not just a credit education service, but it's also a community of other like-minded individuals having the same struggles. For more information, go to issueswithcredit.com. The Issues with Credit community will be with you every step of the way. Issueswithcredit.com, a 13th hour solution venture.
Hey, this is Sheldon Primus, and welcome to the Safety Consultant Podcast. That is the podcast where I help you learn the business of being a safety consultant. And if you're playing the role of a safety consultant as well in your workplace, a lot of people do that, where they are the safety person that is going to take on that consulting type role. So this will help you out too. Today, what I'm going to focus on is going to see if we could boost some of your revenue and chops through training and also OSHA type services. So I'm going to call this one the OSHA Compliance Help. Kind of like the name of my old business, OSHA Compliance Help. I actually have not been using that one. I've been using my Shellbro Safety, but OSHA Compliance Help was one of the products and company that I've used before in the past. If you're on YouTube, go to www.youtube.com and so /C /OSHA Compliance Help. And then you can get on there. That's basically a site that I have that I help with keeping people OSHA compliant by just giving them videos and tips and all that stuff. So I'm going to translate some of that to help you into your business. So we're going to kind of use the OSHA.gov website as home base like I've done before in the past. If you're driving, obviously you're not going to be able to see that. So I'm going to do my best to talk you through this so you don't need to be in front of your computer for this episode. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of click through it myself to help me as a mnemonic memory device. And then also, I'll be able to explain what I'm seeing a little bit better, a little visual help. So first thing that I do after I get to the OSHA.gov website is I actually just kind of peruse the very front page. And on that page right now, I'm looking at it, it is June 12th. They're doing their heat-related stress. That's one of the items on the homepage. Next one is worker safety in trenches. Then summer jobs for young workers. And then a little wording or something about learning about responding to wildfires. So I'm looking through that. Nothing of that is more of an interest yet. I scroll down and I see the news segment. And in the news segments, they put up little blurbs, all the news releases that OSHA has. You're going to see it all scroll there too. So sometimes what I would do is I'll look through the news. I'll find a company that may be close to where I'm going to be, or a company that I can reach out and just kind of talk to the safety and health coordinator, offer some help, and then see if I could, use this website as a tool that's going to give me a referral. That's basically what we're doing over there. And then as you scroll down a little bit more, you'll see their Twitter page and a few other things. That's the home page. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that, quite honestly. I I know there's a wealth of information, but for business purposes, I'm just looking at this in a completely different way. And so first, I want to make sure that I'm going to understand the standard itself. Because if I'm going to be an OSHA compliant consultant, I got to make sure I know the rules and regulations. So in knowing the rules and regulations, you're going to have to pick your specialty. You could be good in general industry, you could be good in construction, you could be good in maritime or agriculture. Go ahead and focus in on that regulation book first. So learn that book, and the way that you're going to do it is first just look at the regular table of contents and pick subjects that you're currently strong on. And so look at the heading. So let's say you're in general industry, that's 1910 is the Code of Federal Regulation book for it. So 29 CFR 1910. And the letters are always what's called a subpart. So you have to break everything up into subparts. So that's just grouping stuff together. So they're just grouping the regs together by topics into subparts. That's always a letter. And then after that, you're going to see the section, which is the number after the period. And then after that, it's going to be a paragraph and subparagraphs and so on. So I'm going to refer this, pretty much I'm going to go back and forth from the regs. Hopefully you guys are good and you remember some of them. If not, then don't worry, hang in there. When you get to your computer, you can see this better. Yeah, so just re-listen to this episode. I'm going to start with subjects that I'm really good at. And I've always been good with, in my wastewater background, permit required confined space, lockout, tagout, just a whole bunch of electrical things, but not too in depth, but just enough where I see poor work and know how to look around it. But so if I'm really good at a topic, I'll look into that, and then I really want to get the feel of the standard. Each standard has its own different feel. Some things may start off first with a definition, kind of get you used to the terms that are coming up, and then they'll give you the scope of what to expect in the rest of the standard, and then they'll break everything down into the sections and look at the heading of the sections to make sure you're in the right place. If you're going to do a citation or a mock OSHA audit, and someone wants to not challenge, but they want you to clarify something in the actual regulation, then that's going to help you, remember that. So always look for the heading on the section, and I'll tell you if you're in the right place for the most part. There are some exceptions. So, and after that, get really good with that. And that's only to give you the basic understanding of how the jurisdictions and the laws work for that one topic that you picked. Another thing then I would do is at this point, I'm going to cross-reference that topic with some other standards. So if you go to section 6 of, I'm going to talk about general industry and construction. If you go to section 6 in any of your CFRs, that's in the construction and general industry, then you're going to see incorporated by reference. That's information that OSHA says, hey, these entities, they have better material to keep you safe than we would. So therefore, we trust their material. It's been vetted. It's gone through whatever process it took for them to publish it. So then now we are going to say that is good enough information that it is going to be incorporated by reference, us writing it in right here in this one little standard, that this is federal law if you break this standard. So National Fire Protection Association is very good with working with OSHA, and their standards have been widely accepted. ANSI, obviously, for any of the ANSI standards, not any, quite a bit. So definitely reference what you were learning first in the OSHA CFR with something like an ANSI standard or any of the other institutes that's mentioned in the incorporation by reference. And then last line of defense to get you even better with figuring this stuff out, and this is just to solidify your baseline understanding, is try to find any information from any of the local or applicable industry magazines or professionals, if you could get a hold of them on LinkedIn or anything, and talk to them pretty much about the standard, their feel on it, and that's going to first give you a nice background on that one topic. And then you just start selling, teaching services or reviewing someone's written programs or something to that effect is what you're going to end up using as your sales tool after you learn that. So that's how I would approach this, and then work your way down to things that you're not so strong on. Chances are you're not going to be doing any consulting services with that, but you get to really increase your understanding with it on your own time. So that's one of the first things I would kind of look out for to give you a little leg up, just to help you out with using OSHA compliance for your business. The second thing that I would look for is you're going to really want to get some good information about not only what the regulations are, then you also want to find out how these regulations became into being. So to do that, you're going to have to hold your mouse, hover it over the standards button under OSHA.gov. When you get down there, you see the drop down menu for laws and regulations. Click on that one. So when you get to that laws and regulation page, you're going to see three kind of broken up groups underneath the big picture, and the one on the left of your screen is standards. So I got you there. So now that you're at standards, you want to look for preambles to final rules. And the preambles themselves is all the information that was gathered in the public comment period and considerations that went into this regulation. They would kind of put it all and group it all together, and that would be called the preambles to that final rule. So whatever the rule is, look for its preambles and just start looking through that timeline and finding out, what happened during this time period and how did this action change the way the final rule is that I'm seeing now. So that's going to get you a good idea of the spirit of the rule from the very inception of when someone decided that they're going to need a rule to go into the regulations. So that's the next thing I would do, is kind of find that preamble, get a good idea. And again, this is information going to your knowledge base, yes, but you're going to end up using this later on, that you're going to help a client if there's a informal conference with OSHA. So now you could, know how to find this information, go through your Rolodex in your head, or however you recall the information, and then use that for your business sake. And the better you get, then you become more of a subject matter expert, and then you could use that for training classes. You could use that to do some speaking engagements. So it's not idle information that you're getting. You're just kind of arming yourself enough that you're going to increase your business. You're going to be better as a consultant, and this is more of a self-education. So that'll help. And so next thing I would do after that, and this is the continuation of making sure that you could use the OSHA website to help grow your business, as well as to provide additional services. So that's the key here. That's what we're gunning for. So after you get out of the preambles, go over and hover over enforcement, and your mouse is going to have a drop-down menu that it includes national emphasis programs. So that's one of the things I would ask you, and my habit is, I should say, I'll look through that. I want to see the directives of any of the things that I feel I'm an expert enough in. I'll go through here and I'll look through some of the national emphasis, and I'll do it usually by just flipping through it and getting a good understanding of what some of those things are. So that means these are entities or activities or even health hazards that OSHA says, I'm going to keep a tab on these regularly, because there's been high hazard incidents related to whatever these subjects are. So naturally, one of them is called process safety management, anytime you've heard in the news that there's been a release in toxic fumes in the air and workers are sick, and the process safety management, when you get to chemicals, the size, they put it on the list of lists in the EPA of chemicals that you have to look out for. So if you are in a large enough quantity with these chemicals, you must have what's called a process safety management compliant program. That's an OSHA program where you're looking through the whole program top to bottom. So let's say you are aware of that. That's what you do. Go down here in the national emphasis, click on that link to the compliance letter that is related to the PSM. And that compliance letter is going to tell you a lot. So once you get to the next stage to click open and let that compliance letter pop up, you're going to want to, some of them are really long, so you're going to probably want to print them at one of those printing presses and just really hunker down and look at this, because this compliance letter that you're seeing is the letter for the regulators as to if they go into a facility, this is what they're going to look for, and sometimes it's policies and procedures related to certain aspects of the ruling. There's all kinds of information in here. You'll get background of what the regulation and the rules would be, and of the industry, any of that. And I would use this to educate yourself so that you're going to know exactly what the compliance and safety officer knows and what's expected of them. And in some cases, you'll find out if your violation that they see, if they see one, knock on wood that they don't, but if there is some sort of violation that's going to expose a worker to a hazard, there's also mechanisms for you to figure out how much is this fine going to be even prior to getting the fine. So you're not asking the compliance officer this, but it's just because of what type of violation it would be. There's a matching and correlating system that will become the fine structure. Basically, that's what it is. So this is a very important document. Flip through it. The one that I'm giving you as the illustration was the PSM. That was 43 pages for that one. So I'm not going to want to do that on my printer, but some of you got great printers, who knows? So get to learn those compliance letters too. And all that I got from the emphasis programs. And you can see directives if you wanted to. You could do regional emphasis programs, state plans. You could work this any different way you want to, but the idea is you're going to provide service with whatever the knowledge you're gaining, and eventually, even if you're not going to do it on a one-on-one client basis, you could eventually start teaching this information, or you could use it as a promotion for, anything. Books, podcasts, webinars. So get that information. It's going to be, well worth it in the long run. The next thing that I use, and just clicking through, you know what? I see one thing, but I'm going to save it for the tip of the week. I don't want to steal all my tips of the week. So here's the next thing I'm going to show you. And I may have mentioned this before in another podcast, so I'm not going to go too long, but hover your mouse over topic, and then you're going to have a lot of drop down menus there. So go to the safety and health program, click on that, and that has 2 books that you could download, one for general industry, one for construction. But what it is the tips that OSHA has for a safety culture. So an injury illness prevention program is pretty much what you're seeing here, and they have it in general industry and construction. So I would grab this and get a good grasp of these aspects for safety culture. And you could turn around and use some of this too, as different things that you could provide some product on, and do it that way. So it's good information. It's going to help people get to a safety culture. I've used this in many ways, so I'm not going to give you all of my tips. You're going to have to learn something yourselves. I always get accused of giving away the milk and the cow. And so I'm just gonna, get you guys started, pointed in the right direction. And if you need some coaching, then just go to sheldonprimus.com/coaching, and that will help. All right, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going down to the data and statistics. I'm going to go real short on this one because I can't go a month without mentioning this website and this page. So I probably mentioned it a few times already. But I do the establishment search, and then you could look up something by name if you know a company, or you could just look up things by state. You could do it by time, but you need that name first as a generator, and then you could research a company that you want to approach and get a good grasp of what their industry would look like, and if they had any kind of OSHA intervention before, you'll see it there on that site. So that's a good one to kind of look up. And it also helps if you're trying to get a customer, and let's say they're on some sort of newspaper or anything, you wrote down their name and you're putting it in here on the OSHA website. You click on that, and again, it's searching that individual, and you'll be able to see if maybe they're going to need someone to represent them in an informal conference or something else like that. And so that's a good way of getting in there. So I think that might be the limit of all the clues I'm going to give you. So you're going to be on your own from there because I'm creating too much competition. No, just keep messing with you. When we come back, we're going to do the tip of the week.
Hi, everybody. Todd Conklin. I know lots of you get your information while you drive down the road or sit on planes or sit in meetings and look interested. And now you should know that 3 of my books are available for your listening pleasure on Audible. With the help of Jay Allen and Safety FM, we've produced 3 of the books: Workplace Fatalities, The 5 Principles of Human Performance, and my very first book, Simple Revolutionary Acts, and they're available now where you get audiobooks.
The tip of the week. In this tip of the week, what you're going to do is you really want to start using the regulatory agenda for OSHA to help yourself kind of forecast where the business is going to be. So what a regulatory agenda is where the HC will get together, all their minds and everything that they do in their annual meetings regionally. Then they're going to go out there and set an agenda for what they're going to do, 6 months, 18 months, 3 years, 5 years. So that regulatory agenda is something to kind of keep an eye on. So you could see if you go to OSHA.gov, when you get to the website, there is a few different headings in the banner on the very top. So you want to hover your mouse over the standards portion, and then you're going to go to regulatory agenda. Click on that link, and that link is going to take you to the current agenda for OSHA, and you'll see it in 3 major categories. One is a pre-rule stage, one is a proposed rule stage, and then there's one that is a final rule stage. And then the newest one, which is a few years old now, 3 years or so, they've got long-term actions. So those are activities that OSHA's still gonna spend some time going through. So look at these items that are on the docket. Just know that the pre-rule is somewhere, 2 years away or something to that effect. I don't know, precisely, but that is the idea between the pre-rule. And then the proposed rule stage is after it goes through a lot of the process to become a law and get the comments and everything else. Then you get into that proposed rule stage, which is probably about 18 months or less than 2 years, let's say it that way, to getting into the final rule stage. And then when it's in the final rule stage, normally you'll see it where it's going to get actually implemented in certain dates for that year or for the coming year in the very beginning of the year. And so those are when you get to the final rule stage. So you can flip through that, see where you need to either start working a network so you get time to get that trust factor in. And then 2-3 years when this standard comes in, you already have a foot in the door with an organization or someone that you help. And then now you could be that person ready to step in. So go ahead and find something in that unified agenda that can help you with your business. Okay, and I will see you next week. And before I go, let me just say, if you need any coaching, go to sheldonprimus.com/coaching. And I am opening up a few coaching spots. Touch you later and see you next Monday.
This podcast is being sponsored by SafetyConsultantBlueprint.com.
This episode has been powered by Safety FM.